Council of Nerds.
Alright, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, video games, all things nerdy. It's what we're going to talk about. It's what we're here for. This is the Council of Nerds podcast. Alright, I'm Logan. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I'm into Star Wars. I like Star Wars. I do Star Wars. But I also love Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter. I like Lord of the Rings. I basically like everything. But I would say Star Wars is definitely my go-to. Yeah, I'm here for a while. I'm here to talk about it. I'm joined by my co-hosts Brian and Dan. We all have our expertises, and we're all ready to talk nerdy things for a while here at the podcast. So, here we go. All right, Brian, go for it.
Like you said, my name is Brian. I think my area more lies in Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. I've done deep dives into the Silmarillion and a lot of the backstory of Lord of the Rings. And Harry Potter, I know too much, probably, in an unhealthy way. So that's always a good thing. So that's where I sit. I do like Star Wars. I know quite a bit about Star Wars as well. But I would definitely think that for me at least takes a bit of a backseat in terms of where most of my knowledge comes from. I do also enjoy the video game scene, follow Sony mostly with most of that. But yeah, I'm just ready to talk and to share opinions and just see where this whole journey takes us. It'll be great.
Nice. Awesome. All right, Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan. I am pretty much the most knowledgeable one here. I'm like a nerd encyclopedia, right? Yeah, I've
shoulder.
yeah, no biggie. Let's see. I have read all the Harry Potter books, watched all the movies. I've watched all the Star Wars movies, except for the Clone Wars. I'm still behind on that, and Rebels.
He's getting there.
But I'm working on it. I'm listening to Lord of the Rings audiobooks. I'm on the Two Towers. I almost said Twin Towers. That would have been
bad. Your mind's in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me. I get to learn.
I love how you said it would have been bad and you still said it. Like, that's my favorite part of that.
You totally could have avoided it, but you didn't.
I should.
Oh man, cool. All right. Well, why are we here? Why are we doing this podcast? I feel like personally, we have this nerdy stuff inside us. We have all this knowledge, and it might not be as in depth and like hardcore as other nerds out there, but we want to talk about it. We never get to talk about it, and so this is kind of a way for us to do that. We can talk about nerdy stuff. And it's not like we care about getting judged by other people, because I honestly don't care. I'm a nerd. I'm there for it. I'm here for it.
Let's just establish that now. We
Yeah.
clearly don't care what other people think.
Clearly.
But I think this came about a lot because at least Logan and I, we don't, we live in different areas, but when we get together, it seems like our entire time is spent just talking about nerdy stuff. And so we wanted to have a way to get that off our chest more, and this is a good venue for that. And we've known Dan for a while, and he always makes us laugh. So, hey, it makes for a good combo.
I mean, with Dan, the main thing I remember that's nerdy is him pointing at Fan X in Salt Lake at every thing he could find and saying, "Is that Sting from Lord of the Rings? Is that that stormtrooper's weapon Sting?" And yeah, that's basically Dan, right?
In a nutshell, he's probably, as he said, the most knowledgeable of
Guaranteed.
all three of us.
Oh yeah,
It's true. There's either two things in this universe: Sting and not Sting.
Right. Speaking of Fan X in Salt Lake, though, probably the best moment that the three of us shared was when the first time we went to this thing, Logan's walking around with a nice clone trooper helmet that he has had for some time.
Yes.
And a probably 6-7-year-old child who's probably never been to a con in his life, right, is in the food court at City Creek in Salt Lake getting McDonald's like the rest of us before everything starts in the morning. And he I can't. Logan, please. What did you do to this child, please?
First of all, I just want to go on record that, like, I was ready for this convention. I was all in. I love conventions. So, like, anybody, mainly children, coming up to me at that point, I was not gonna take. You know, like, just kids go away. But this kid, I don't even have the full suit, and I wasn't even wearing it. I was just carrying the Clone Trooper helmet. And the kid is like, is that a Darth Vader helmet? And I instantly lashed out at him, and I was like, well, no, but that's okay. And just kept walking.
You said, and I quote, yeah, sure, but no. Those are the words that came out of your mouth.
I'm just trying to make myself sound nicer.
Yeah, I know, and I'm here to keep you honest.
And I love that earlier on in this recording, we said we don't care about being judged by other people. But
Now we're just judging each other.
Yeah, here we were roasting a little 7 or 8-year-old.
Dude, he was at least 6.
6.
So dumb, though. How do you not know the difference between a Darth Vader helmet and a Clone Trooper helmet? They're distinctly different. One is white and one is black.
You give valid, fair points. We're not saying that the kid had any grounds to be the way that he was. It was completely unvalidated.
Yeah, if you know who Darth Vader is, then you should know that, like, Darth Vader doesn't have a white helmet. That's the way my Clone Trooper helmet is. Stupid kid.
Or a white helmet in general.
Yeah, true. True, very true. All right, well, let's talk about things we have. Nerdy things we have, like, I don't know, toys, whatever, collectibles, whatever. Things that we might want as well. What are things that we really want? We'll just start out with things we have, though. So we'll start with Brian.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I grew up in I would consider one of the nerd meccas of the U.S., at least in California. And so I had, ample access to Universal Studios and Disneyland and a lot of those places where you can get some of those collectibles. But throughout time, I have now accumulated 10 Harry Potter wands from Universal. And all of the ones that I would say are my wands are of characters who have passed in the continuity of Harry Potter. So I have Mad-Eye Moody, and I have Snape, and Fred Weasley, and things like that. And then my wife decided she wanted a few, which is fine, but she wanted the pretty ones. So she has some of the characters I don't care about, which is totally fine. But I still have them. And then we have some of the Fantastic Beast ones as well, which is cool. Like we have Newt Scamander and Nicholas Flamel and young Dumbledore's wand, which all three of those are really cool and really unique in the ways that they made those for the movies. On top of that, I do have a Narsil sword replica that I bought at FanX with you guys, which was a good moment.
I thought you bought Sting.
No, according to Dan, I did, but
okay.
No, it was Narsil. I have a plethora of nerdy posters, and then up until recently, I did have a couple of the collectible Disney lightsabers, but those are no longer in my possession, sadly. Wah, wah.
Rip.
I would love to get those back, but as well, I've always really liked, now that they've opened up the Black Spire Outpost and all of that with Star Wars Land over at Disneyland and Disney World, they have a lot more of the collectible lightsabers, and I've always liked Darth Maul's lightsaber I think is super cool. I like Mace Windu's as well as Asajj Ventress's lightsabers are super cool. So I think I would like to expand kind of my Star Wars base of nerdery in terms of collectibles because I think I've got Harry Potter well and done. maybe one or two more Lord of the Rings pieces. Nothing that really jumps to mind. But I would also really like a Lego Death Star to hang up.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That'd be
But-
cool. Nice. Dan, do you have anything? I actually don't know.
You know, I probably should have gone first. I have a lot of stuff. Let's see. I have the Elder Wand. I got that Universal Studios back in 2016.
Nice.
I remember it very well. I had a weird outfit on. I had like these neon yellow shoes, khaki pants, and a bright pink polo on.
What?
Yeah. I don't know why I was dressed like that, but I've got a Naruto poster as well. That's something that's pretty cool.
Okay.
But I think my most prized possessions are my Crocs. I've got camo Crocs and I've got giblets. I have a Clone Trooper giblet in there and a Darth Vader giblet.
Nice.
But yeah, I really don't have too much stuff. I used to have more as a kid. I've got like probably scars on my knuckles from, sword fights and lightsaber fights as a young child.
Memorabilia that will last forever.
That I only had to pay for with my blood.
Right.
the cheap price.
Oh yeah.
Nice. All right. I got quite a bit of stuff, actually. Probably too much stuff. I should probably sell some of it. I need money. But I got, I mean, basically all my stuff is Star Wars. I have a lot of posters and pictures. I got, one of my favorite things actually is, it's just a picture of Clone Wars Obi-Wan, but it's signed by the voice James Arnold Taylor of Obi-Wan. Got that at FanX actually. So that was really cool.
Remember that?
Yeah. I have a lot of helmets. I have a Darth Vader helmet. I have my Phase 2 animated Clone Trooper helmet. I have a Stormtrooper helmet, a Sand Trooper helmet, and then Poe Dameron's X-Wing pilot helmet, which I admittedly wear like around the house sometimes because I can, dude. I can.
Why not?
Yeah, and then I do have some Harry Potter. I have my wife, she has Harry Potter's wand, and then
Classic.
I bought both. These are both from Universal Studios. It's just a Death Eater's wand. It doesn't have like a specific character or anything, but it's pretty cool. It's got like a skull on it and stuff. And then Lord of the Rings style stuff, I don't really actually have. I mean, I have a sword, but it's from Braveheart, and it's hanging on a mount that's Lord of the Rings esque. It looks like it's gone like Gondor. And then I have a longbow, like an actual longbow that my wife's friend's brother made me, and it's pretty sick actually. Like he even spun like the string for it and made it for the bow, and then he made the arrows. Like he actually fletched the arrows and like got feathers and put them on there. So that was pretty sick. I love that thing.
Wow.
I would say things that I want though. I mean, I still will always want. Probably one day will get is a full Clone Trooper outfit. A lot of people out there have them. I know people who have them. They love them and they look super cool in them. So I want that. That's probably the main thing I want. But Lord of the Rings stuff, man, I've seen people who have like the helmets from Lord of the Rings, like some of the helmets, like Rohan, like people, the Rohirrim, they have their helmets,
Right.
or they have, they even had like Sauron's helmet and stuff. It's just so cool. Or the Witch King of Angmar, like that would be so cool to have. Even if I couldn't wear it, but I could just mount it on something and display it, that would be super cool. I'd be down for that. That'd probably be my favorite thing.
It's awesome.
But yeah. Well, cool. Well, I love being a nerd. I love nerdy things. Um, Speaking of just going in depth with things, um, why do you think we go so deep into this stuff? Like, why do we go deep into nerdy things? Anyone?
That's actually something that I've been thinking about for a while, because I remember as a little kid, I think the part that I loved the most about Star Wars was that like it seemed like anything was possible, and Disney's taken that, they've run with it, anything's possible. But it was just so cool because I was like, it's an infinite universe, there's anything. And I remember watching the original trilogy, and I was like, oh my gosh, Darth Vader's Anakin's, or whoa, shoot, is Luke's dad. Spoiler alert, by the way. And
If you haven't seen it.
yeah, if you haven't seen it, you probably should.
It's only been out for 40
And then
years.
the first one, I remember being a little kid and watching like the podcast race, and I've always loved Jar Jar Binks. Like,
You
even
said
as a kid.
podcast race.
Yeah.
It's cool. It is a race. We're all here for it.
Yeah, during the pod race, I love that. I love the whole thing. And then Darth Vader, man, Darth Vader. You get to see him as a little kid, right? That was a good recovery. But Darth Maul, I remember seeing that lightsaber and being blown away because I had never seen anything like it. And so I think, because I've been listening to Lord of the Rings, that's something that I've really loved about Lord of the Rings. I've tried reading the books as a kid, and I couldn't. The unabridged versions, there's so many songs and stuff in it. But something that I love that Tolkien did is that even though he explains more about, the Middle Earth, the world there's always there's more that he never talked about. There's always that sense of like mystery and wonder where we get to use our imaginations. And I think the cool thing to me about learning more about these universes is that I have like a better idea of like how they work. So I'm like, oh, so like this is how things work in the Star Wars universe, is how they work in the Harry Potter universe, or the Lord of the Rings. And you can like kind of make up theories. Like I was texting Brian a little while ago about Star Wars. The new, what's the latest, episode 9? That's Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was texting him about like how there's that new thing, the rule of 2. When the apprentice kills the master, all the Sith come and live in him. And I was texting Brian about that. I'm like, well, according to these new rules that Disney made, Darth Vader, as far as I'm aware, he killed Sidious, and somehow Sidious came back. So Darth Vader should have all of the Sith living in him, and then he died. And so I think it's cool to do that. Like, they give you enough, and then you have like your own chance to like kind of expound and go off of it. And that's something that I've always loved. It's a universe that someone else makes, but like you can feel like you're a part of it.
Right.
I would agree with that. I think that's a huge thing. I think you have the aspect of being able to carve your own path through something that someone else did the heavy work for. I think that's part of it, is like, oh, I don't have to necessarily understand the base principles super well, but I can take this one track that's really, really interesting to me, and I can explore it really thoroughly. I think that there's a niche community for that. But I think people like the idea of learning things that just are impossible, but that they wish were. I don't know how many times I've either read Harry Potter or watched Harry Potter, and I just go, I wish this stuff was real.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that I could flick my wrist and my dishes wash themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, just anything like that. And I think I was talking to my wife, and I was like, it's kind of ridiculous that I know the ins and outs of the Weasley family tree, but I can't get better than a B in my managerial accounting class. Like, the knowledge that I have obtained through these, subjects, who knows where I could be in my life right now if I had chosen to put that effort into something that, could have made me into, I don't know, a successful scientist or a computer programmer or whatever anything like that is. But this is what makes me at the end of the day feel happy and gives me my sense of identity. And I think for me, I don't want to be a physicist. I had a roommate that was a physicist in college, and he's done great for himself, and I'm super glad. But he was as passionate about being able to analyze moon rocks through refractory systems. I don't even know what I just said.
I don't either.
He was as passionate about that as I am about how you become an animagi in Harry Potter, which is a process.
Which
let me
is
tell
cool,
you.
yeah, actually.
But like, I think that aspect for so many people is huge. I have a brother who is autistic, and for him, he doesn't necessarily have the mental faculties to apply himself to certain things that the general populace would consider to be a productive subject.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, there's certain things that catch his attention. Whether it was when he was a kid, we would play this game called Viva Pinata on Xbox 360, which, by the way, if you've never played, is the most bizarre but awesome video game where you collect pinatas that are apparently real. I don't know.
Wow.
And he loved it, and you garden along with it, and it was great for him. And that's what he was able to apply himself to. And I think that it's great that in this world now, the stigma of being the nerdy kid is pretty much non-existent. I don't think there's a single person that doesn't love, well, I won't say a single person, but the vast majority of people love Star Wars. The vast majority of people love Harry Potter. It's not this niche subject where it's these closeted weirdos that just, hang out in their mom's basement anymore. There's people that just like these mainstream topics, which, yes, you could say they're mainstream, which makes it maybe a little bit less nerdy, but people love it. And I think that has made it possible for people to make money doing things in the nerd category. There was kids who won millions of dollars playing Fortnite, for crap's sake. I mean, it's just, it's amazing to me that the world has embraced that side of them, and that this is no longer something to hide away from or to think is weird. It's just part of normal life now, and I love that. And I don't know, I think there's an excitement factor when it comes to these universes. And even if you're completely wrong, like you are off the walls wrong about a theory you have, it's your theory. It's yours. You're the only one who thought of it, and it's still something that you can be proud of at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think going along with both of you guys, like we'll start with like the theories thing. Like for me, I used to make a lot of theories. I mean, yeah, I guess I still do. Even though I know they're going to be wrong, right? Like I know I'm not going to be right. But I think it pushes like people who make theories, people who do that just for fun, not like if it's not right, if their theory's not right, they're not going to be mad, right? Like it's not their decision. But I feel like being able to create theories for these nerdy categories, it pushes everybody's creativity in some way. And I think that's super important. Like I think being able, like whether it's just making things up in your brain, that's creativity, making up a theory in your brain, or even if it pushes you to like maybe draw something or paint something that has to do with that theory or with that nerdy category. It just pushes everybody to just want to do something creative in their own way. And I think that's super cool. It's super fun. Like I love going in depth with things. I haven't been as in depth with things like I used to be, but I still love it. Like I love hearing people talk about deep lore of Lord of the Rings. And I've never read the Lord of the Rings books. I want to. And I love the movies, but my brother's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, like huge. He's read all the books, and that means not just the Lord of the Rings books or the Hobbit book, but, like the Silmarillion. He's read, I think he has a book that's like all about the dwarves. It's just about the dwarves and like their history. And he just knows everything. And like I'll listen to him. I'll make fun of him all the time. When I first was dating my wife, I said, when she first met him, I was like, hey, when you first meet him, ask him why orcs are made of mud. and he'll get so mad, dude, because he'll be like, first of all, it's Urukai, or Urukai, however you want to pronounce it, the Urukai, and it's not mud. And then he like goes into like the full-on science of like how Urukai are created or whatever. And I was like, that is so nerdy, but I love it. Like I love hearing about it, and I love making fun of people for it. But I'm not making fun of it like in a mean way. It's just kind of funny.
I think there's an aspect of that in the nerd community of self-deprivation and making fun of others.
Yeah.
When you find someone who's just a little bit nerdier than you, you're like, wow, you're such a nerd.
You're so
like, wait a minute.
You're so dumb. How's your mom's basement? As you're like sitting in like your nerd room, like poor and like thinking about
that you've
like,
decorated yourself.
Yeah. You're like, wait, that doesn't look right at that angle. Yeah. And then going along with what Dan said though, like the whole like story aspect of all these things, like for me, I'll talk about video games. I love right now I'm really into the game Sea of Thieves. Like I love that game. And it's not really a story game at all, right? Like there's no main story course that you're going on. It's an open world style. It's basically like a server based MMO. But it's so fun. You're a pirate. It's super cool. But they do have like these tall tales in the game, and it does have a storyline in a way. But you do the tall tale, and then you have to wait for another future update where they're going to expand that story. And for me, like that's so cool. Like to anticipate a new story, whether it's a video game, a movie series, TV series, whatever, anticipating like a future story for nerdy things is just like, it keeps me going, dude. Like I love that stuff. And like and then being like putting that all together, those future stories create those theories, and then it just makes you so creative. And then you can even tie that in with like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons so much. And I play it in the stupidest way. Have you guys seen Community, the show Community?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you know the Dungeons and Dragons episode, right, with Fat Neil. That episode fuels me, dude. I love that episode. Like I love how they play D&D. It is the simplest form. It is like nobody's keeping track of like hit points or anything like that really, and it's just like telling this dumb story, and you have your objective, right? And so like one time I wrote my own Dungeons and Dragons story. And I painted my own like map for it, and I had my friend Nick and my friend Steven, last names redacted, to come over and play. And dude, I went all in. I sewed us. Do you guys know what a cowl? Like you know what a cowl is?
Yeah, like a hat.
Like Batman's cowl. Yeah.
Yeah, or like so like it's basically like a hood with no like sleeves or body part, right? It just goes over your shoulders and your head. And so, dude, I took old T-shirts and I sewed cowls for all three of us. And they came over one night when our wives were at like a what is that? Like a wedding shower or whatever. And we were here. We had pizza and we had like these.
Did you light candles?
No, but I did do dim. I did do dim lighting. And we like I have my sword. And then my friend Steven has the Link's sword from Zelda. And then
Nice.
I think I had like a knife or another sword or something like that. I can't remember. But I gave it to Nick for the night. And we just like went through and we like hardcore played this D&D story. But I was like, if you think about it, if you're not really nerdy, I've met a lot of people who don't really care about nerdy things. Like their nerdiest thing is like Marvel, which is cool. That's super. That's fine. That is nerdy. I don't know anything about Marvel really, but like they don't dive deep, and I feel like that doesn't like push their creativity in any hardcore way. And so like if you were to play Dungeons and Dragons or something with like someone like that, it would be kind of hard. Like their imagination is kind of like shadowed. Like they can't push through it, and they're like trying to have that imagination, but sometimes they can't. And it's kind of like we're just kids, man. We're kids in adult bodies, and we just have all these toys and these imaginations of wishing we were wizards or Jedi or a soldier in the Rohirrim. You know, like there's just so many different things that we're into, and yeah, we can't ever be that, but man, would it be cool.
One day.
One day, man.
Yeah.
Well, it
That'd
makes
be
me
so
think of,
cool.
I mean, Disney and Pixar just dropped Onward,
Oh yes,
not
such a good
too
movie,
long ago,
man.
which was just basically a massive animated D&D game. Like, it was awesome.
It was
I loved
so
it.
good, man.
And that whole aspect of, you know, if fantasy grew up, and I think that that's part of, like, fantasy has aged into what it is now very much in the same way that that movie did. Like, you have people that want to be, I think you have closeted nerds out there that want to be a part of it but don't want to look lame, and so they try to find a cool way to do it. And so you have, you know, new board games that are very D&D-esque. Like, there's this game called, I think it's called like the Murder on the House on the Hill or something like that.
Oh yeah,
And
I've
it's
heard of
this and it's this mystery-based board game, and as you move into rooms, you build the board map. So as you move into the next room, you randomly pull a room tile, and then that determines what's in that room. And I'm like, this is
It's
D&D.
D&D,
Like,
yeah.
what the heck? But nobody in the room has that thought because it's not put into that framework. And so I think that there's sometimes these negative preconceptions on some of these certain things like D&D and things like that people are like, oh, I would never do that. But then you find everybody playing these different games that like you realize this is just D&D, right? Like that's all you're doing. And so I think it's kind of interesting that the evolution of what fantasy and nerdiness as a whole has really turned into is that it's part of the community now, but in just like a secret way. Like they have to slide it in there. Like when your parents slipped in broccoli when you didn't know it, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird world. Being a nerd is fun, man. I love being a nerd. It was probably I think it was my junior year of high school where me and my friends, I found like my actual good friends, right? Me and like 3 others. And we were just like, dude, who cares about, like, you know, in high school, everybody, you want to be cool or whatever. And like, it's not like we were like hardcore trying to be in that popular group, but we were just like, you know, we didn't really care anymore. Like we were just like, well, after high school's done, we're not going to really see these people anymore. Who cares? You know, let's just live our own life. So just went full in nerdy. Like my friends we were all pretty nerdy already, but I think we dove in deeper. Like we were playing Minecraft in my friend's basement, skipping class to do that sometimes. You know, we did go to Home Depot and buy some cheap wood and make us our own shields, like with Goodwill belts to strap on our arms. And we like had, back in that time, they sold Nerf weapons. They sold like swords and axes and stuff, which
right
were
before
super
it became
cool.
too dangerous.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, like we cut each other on accident multiple times playing this game. And like we would LARP, basically. We were out LARPing in the middle of the street. And it was so fun. And then, you know, we played D&D. And we just like did these nerdy things. And it was so fun. Like, it was so much more fun. Life was so much better, and we were so much happier because we were just living the way we wanted to live, and like just imagining that we were like Vikings or like Scottish warriors or something, right? Like something dumb. And it came into video games. Skyrim, man. Skyrim was our game. We would do Skyrim all-nighters, and we created these characters, and they were like specific to us, and we like would like take our characters' names and put them over ourselves. Like my friends are Lord Finley Battlebore, Lord Frederick Earthshatter, and I'm Lord Seamus Wolfbane. And so like we were into it, man. Like we created a whole background story. Yes, my lords. Peasants. And dude, it's just so fun. I love it. I love being a nerd, man. It's so good. I love it. But yeah, you guys have anything else to say? I think we got a good mark for a first episode here.
I have one more thing. Nerdiest thing you did when you were a kid. I'll go first.
Yeah.
When I was a kid growing up in Coastal City, California, that's not a real place. Don't look it up. I just don't want to give my actual hometown.
Looking it up.
Don't. It might be real. I don't know. I've never heard of Coastal City,
Probably
California.
is.
I love being from California sometimes, and I hate it for other reasons. But my favorite is when people go, "Oh, do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "Where are they from?" They're like, "Sacramento." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Do you know so and so from Minnesota?" And they're like, "Well, no." And I'm like, "That's closer to you now than Sacramento was to me then." Like, no, don't be dumb. Sorry, I digress. My rant is over.
You good.
Growing up, my brothers and I have 3 brothers, but we would go to the beach growing up in the summertime and all that all the time. And we would pretend that the waves coming at us were hordes of orcs. And we would
That's awesome.
pretend to slash the waves with our invisible swords to try to fight them back. And it was the dumbest thing on the planet. Because, of course, we got destroyed. Like, every time a wave hit us, we'd go 50 feet the other way because, water, it's not a light object. It hits you pretty good.
How old were you?
But we had so much fun getting, sand in our shorts every single time we got tossed by a wave. And I think I was 8 the first time I ever did that. And I probably did that with my brothers all the way through high school. Like, we were just idiots. But we had so much fun doing that. And it was always an aspect of us growing up. Whether we were at the beach or we were jumping on the trampoline, one of us would pretend to be an orc and the rest of us would, fight them. And it was a good time. That was my nerdiest, probably not the nerdiest, but at least the fondest nerd memory I have as a child. Dan, you're next.
Oh man.
Ooh, I did a lot of nerdy stuff as a kid. But like, there's such good memories, like there's so many that I want to share, but I don't want to, dump them. I want to save a few.
Naturally.
I think probably what I would say was my biggest nerdy moment was my best friend and I, from like kindergarten up until 6th or 7th grade. We would go out in my backyard, and I had a trampoline, right? It's a circle one, maybe 10 feet across or something like that, pretty small. But we'd just be out there for like hours, and we'd be running and bouncing in a circle just around the trampoline, and just like talking, and like almost like talking through like a D&D campaign. And I think what I loved about it the most is like looking back, I'm like, I always pictured it this one way, even like what I was describing, but like I know in his head he was picturing something that was probably completely different, like different environment, different looking people, and I don't know, like we used to do that like every day, or we'd go over to his house and we're like, oh, we're gonna dig an underground bunker and stuff like that, secret bunker, and this is probably the nurse thing I did. We had a sleepover, right, and it was probably like 3 or 4 in the morning, and we were still awake, and we were talking, and then we're like, let's just go start in this bunker. And so I think we grabbed a multi-tool and like a garden trowel, and we went like right out in front of his front porch and started digging. And I think we got maybe like a 1 foot by 1 foot hole, and then we were like, let's go inside and go to sleep.
I'm sure his mom loved that.
Oh my gosh, she hated us so much.
Yeah.
But see, before you say that, I love this because Dan just had a moment of, whoa, I remember doing this when I was a kid. I love that. That's awesome. That's what I hope we can do for people is when they listen to this, they go, oh, I remember when I did that stupid thing when I was a kid that I loved so much. I thought that was great.
All right, mine. Same as Dan, and I'm sure Brian. I did a lot of nerdy stuff when I was younger. One that specifically, like as a child, I would say that specifically stands out was, it was like right around the time Star Wars Episode 2 came out, Attack of the Clones, and clones were super cool. Like nobody can deny that, right? No matter how weird or in other people's eyes, wrong Star Wars is being made or whatever, or, in some people's opinion, how bad the prequels are. Clone Troopers are continuously awesome. I love them. And they were awesome from the moment we saw them in Attack of the Clones. And so, I don't know how old I was. I was probably 9, 8 or 9, you know. And me and my best friend growing up, I mean, we're still best friends, but I had a trampoline in my backyard, and to a kid, a trampoline can be anything, right? It could be a castle, it could be anything. And so for this time, it was the LAATs, or those, you know, the ships that you make out of the paper holder clips. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was one of those. And we were clone troopers. And we would act out that Geonosis stadium scene at the end of Attack of the Clones all
So
the
good.
time. And I don't know why, dude. This is weird. It's even weird to me thinking about it, but then I also think like, yeah, like I still think it is the coolest thing. But I love it's super minor, but there's a part where like this clone trooper's out, right? He's covering the Jedi as they're coming into the ship when they save him, right? And he's shooting out there and stuff. And then when they're good to go, he starts like backing up without looking back, and he just kind of like sits on the edge of the ship still shooting, right? Like he's just like pew,
Yeah.
pew, 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 and then he just like sits down, but he's got like one leg kind of up and one leg kind of dangling lower, and he's just like shooting droids. And I don't know why, but I loved that. I thought it was so cool that the way he sat down. And so every time we would play that, I would do that on our trampoline. I would just like sit up on it and pretend I was shooting droids. And I still, like, to this day when I watch that movie, I see that clone do that, and I'm always like, he's the coolest one. He probably died, but he is the coolest clone. I don't care. He's not in Clone Wars. He's not a specific clone that I know, but he's the coolest one. I don't even care anymore. And I just loved that. So that was probably the nerdiest. I mean, not the nerdiest, but like one of those like nerdy things I remember doing specifically as a kid. But I would say the nerdiest thing is me and my friends in high school got really into Braveheart and Scottish Warriors. And I'm from Oregon, and there's this parade in Oregon called the Starlight Parade. And at the beginning, they have this like 5K run that's just kind of funny, and like people dress up for it and stuff. And so me and my friends were like, hey, let's do it, and let's be Scottish Warriors. So we got those shields we made out of crappy wood from Home Depot. We got our Nerf weapons, and we went to went to Goodwill, and we bought some skirts that had like a plaid design on them.
Nice.
And those were now our kilts. And we bought, my friend, he bought a this like jean jacket that had like fur on the inside, and he cut it out and he like draped it over him like fur, like he killed this animal, and it was like part of his costume. Then we got some blue paint, and we just painted our faces and our bodies just like the warriors from Braveheart. And it worked because it was kind of funny though, because me and one of my friends were both gingers, so you know it plays into that Scottish game. But then our other friend is half Japanese, and so like
Looking like a Scot.
seeing him as a Scottish dude was pretty cool. It was pretty funny. But man, that was so fun. Like that was nerdy. It was in front of a whole city, right? Like a whole city goes to this thing, and
Right.
we were just all in for it. It was so much fun, and yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
probably the nerdiest thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. That was a good, solid first episode. Obviously, have some things to work on, but it's a good start. We're gonna have freaking fun with this. Like Brian said, I hope we're just able to push that nerdy mind of people and just get them to be more nerdy. Yeah, this is just remember we're the Council of Nerds. This is one of many episodes. You can follow us on Instagram. It's the underscore con underscore podcast, or just look up the Council of Nerds on Instagram. And then we'll be putting these on YouTube. Same thing, the Council of Nerds on YouTube. And then on Spotify as well. We're probably going to put it on there. So yeah, that was a good episode. Anything else, you guys?
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
Dan?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, sweet. That was a good episode. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, and goodbye.